Today I have what is hopefully going to be a quick tutorial for you guys for something that was really annoying me, and I found a way to get around it. So if you have worked in Bubble, there may be instances in which you want a link, an internal link to open in a new tab, or even an external link. But unfortunately, workflows don't have that ability for some reason. And so there is a little bit of coding that you have to do, but I promise it's not that bad. So what I did here was I just set up a little dummy page to show you how it works. This has a repeating group with restaurants. This is a restaurant website with a list of the top 100 Houston restaurants. And so it's just pulling the restaurant's name just to make it easier for you to see. When I click on this, I've set up a workflow. I'll show you really quickly here. I've set up a workflow to set the state of the page, which I made a custom state called restaurant. It's set to type restaurant. I'll show you this in a second. And it just puts the value of that current sales restaurant as the state. And then I'm going to use that to tell this button which page to open in a new tab. If you're not familiar with how to set states of pages, click on outside of anything, or if you go to the elements tree, you can click on the very topmost item here, and then click this I button, and this will open the element inspector, and then you would add a new custom state. So I already added this one, restaurant, and I chose the type here is restaurant. Now, if this was a list of restaurants, it was several restaurants adding here, I'd do that, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm not doing that for this. All right, so the flow would be I click the name here, and then it would set the state of this page, and then I'm going to set this to reference the state to know which restaurant page to open. Okay, so if we go into the workflow for this button now, the way you would normally do this is go to navigation, go to page, right? The destination is going to be, in this case, it would be the, details, which is the name of my page. And the data to send would be test, which is the name of the page, tests restaurant, right? And so then we'll just test this really quick. So I'll open it in a preview. I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to set it to Pondicherry, and nothing happened because you can't see the state change because I didn't set up that. But if I click this, then now it's going to actually open the page for Pondicherry, which is a great restaurant. If you're ever in town, you should check it out. But we want this to actually open in another page, because what if the person who's looking at this wants to check out Pondicherry and Cowba and Street to Kitchen? It would be annoying for them to have to go and click back and click and click back. Now, where you might see this in the wild is Airbnb. They're a perfect example of this. If you go search for a property on Airbnb, you get a list of properties, the map, and when you click on a property and open it, it actually opens into a new tab. And as a user, this is a much better experience, because if I'm looking for a property, place to stay, I'm probably going to look at several different properties at the same time. And if I had to click and then click back, and then my search refreshed, and then I lost my place in where I was searching, that would be a very annoying experience as a user. However, you don't want to necessarily be opening every link on your page in a new tab. So this is something to definitely use responsibly, but it can be very useful to a user when you're doing it. Another example would be if you're giving people an admin, if let's say they're adding products to their shop and they want to check out what the product page looks like to a user on the front end. If you gave them a link that said, open this product or view this product, that would be convenient to open into a new page so that they can still have their editor open on one tab and then the product on another. So there's just some things to think of. It's very common with directory sites and marketplaces. All right, so that's enough about the UX UI of that. So now what we need to do is show you how to actually get this to open in a new tab. So like I said, this is not a built-in functionality of Bubble. So if we go back here to navigation, go to page, we already showed you that opens in the same page. Unfortunately, open an external website does the same thing. Whether it's an external or an internal website, it's going to open it in the same tab. So if you want any link to open in a new tab via a workflow, as opposed to that link element, which does give you the option in the checkbox to open it in a new tab, this is what you need to do. So it's actually not going to be in navigation at all. What you need to do is go to plugins, and then you're going to need to install a plugin, and it's this one right here called Toolbox. So if you don't see it, search for it and then install it. As you can see, it's obviously very, very popular. And this gives you the ability to add a little bit of JavaScript to your site. Now, before you freak out and say, this is no code, what are you doing? I promise you, this is going to be very, very, the most minimal of code that you could probably do. So we've installed that. Now we'll go back to our workflow. We've got this when the button open restaurant is clicked. So what we're going to do now is go down to plugins, and then we're going to select run JavaScript. This is the thing that plugin gave you. It's the ability to do run JavaScript. All right, so here's the script. Super easy. Window dot open. Opening parentheses, quotation marks. All right, now you're going to insert the link. So what we want to do is we want to insert I like to use these variables, because that way if your URL changes, it's not static hard-coded, it'll update, right? So website home URL, which is going to be basically this whole part. Oops. Houston-top-eats.bubbleapps.io/version-test/blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you've got a custom domain, that will automatically update. So, or if you're on your live version, etc. So that's why I prefer to use that variable instead of hard coding Houston top eats, whatever. Because you might change your URL someday. And do you really want to remember to have to go back through and update all these formulas? No, you don't. All right, so actually what we need to look at, though, is that this is actually, we're wanting to get the formula for our details pages for these restaurants, which is the base URL /details/ and then this is Theodore Rex. Now, here's the rub here. Okay, so let me just add this real quick. So we got to do /details, which is the slug for that page type, right? The details page type. But then within that, we've got the actual slug of the page itself. Now, keep in mind, these are not set by default. So if you haven't set it, then you would use the page ID, not the page slug. But I do recommend anytime you're creating a new thing that you want to be able to easily access with pretty links, is to use the action set a thing slug, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. So let's just assume you already know how to do that. You've already set up the slug. So we're going to insert dynamic data. Now we passed the restaurant as a custom state to test. So we say tests, restaurants, and then we scroll down here, slug. Okay. Now, very important, because if you forget this, then you're going to click the button and nothing's going to happen. You have closing quotation marks and a closing parentheses. That's it. That's your code. And it's done. So let's go back to our page now and test what happens. All right. So again, remember we have to let's try a new one. Set a state. You're not seeing it, but I promise it happened. And then we click open restaurant in a new tab. And magic. Look at that. See, I have the slug set here is the name of the restaurant. It pulled the details. Now, you see I did have, maybe I didn't need to put that initial slash, because it looks like it pulled it from the domain name. So I'm going to actually go in here and clean that up a little bit. It still worked, but that's cleaner. All right. So there you go. A little less readable from a human perspective right here. But if we try it again, you'll see that the link will work correctly now. And open. Okay, so you can see we didn't get that extra front / there. So, okay, cool. So that is how you do that. And so I'm just going to show you really quickly in case you don't know how to set a slug. When you are creating a new thing, you'll create the thing, and then you're going to go and do this set a thing slug here. You would say the results of step 1 or whatever step that your creation was. And then what I like to do is I say, let's just say this the restaurant's name is usually a good one, and it will actually do all the formatting you need to make it like compatible with the URL, so it's dynamic. And it will not update unless you tell it to update when you change the name of a page, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, that's a bit outside of the scope of the rest of this tutorial, so I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below. Give me a like, thumbs up, subscribe. You know the drill here. And then if you have any other Bubble questions or no-code questions in general, I'm also familiar with Airtable, Zapier, Softer, a bunch of other platforms. So if you have any questions about those you think would make for an interesting tutorial, go ahead and drop them in the comments, and I will do my best to make it happen. All right, hope you have a great night or day or afternoon or whatever time it is for you, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.